Well, the 2 years since the Dobbs decision has drastically changed the landscape for many women seeking abortion and reproductive care in the U.S. Meg Terrell takes a look back at some of the women and families CNN previously met and shows us just how much things have changed.
In the 2 years since Roe v. Wade was overturned, we've crossed the country, hearing from women and families about the transformation in access to reproductive health care.
I continue to feel this baby move and knowing that I'm going to give birth and watch my child pass.
The effects of the Dobbs v. Jackson decision that overturned the constitutional right to abortion have stretched also to miscarriage care, as clinics have closed down, reducing access to lower-cost procedures in critical moments for patients.
I wanted to have that D&C. I didn't want to have to go through it at home knowing that it was going to be horrifying.
And to in vitro fertilization, after a state Supreme Court decision temporarily threw Alabama's providers into legal limbo by declaring that destroyed frozen embryos deserved protection under the state's 1872 Wrongful Death of a Minor Act.
Now there is so much uncertainty about the safety of growing embryos and storing embryos.
Now, 14 states have near total bans on abortion. 7 others restrict it between 6 and 18 weeks of pregnancy. And the landscape continues to change. We went inside an abortion clinic in Jacksonville, Florida, hours before a 6-week ban took effect May 1st.
It's very scary that these laws are being put into place,
affecting not just local patients like Candace, who feared continuing a pregnancy would be risky to her health and requested anonymity, but also limiting access to care across the whole region.
This changes everything for the entire Southeast.
Over the last 2 years, how has the number of abortions in the U.S. changed?
While we see that there were on average 8,000 fewer abortions each month across all of the states that ban or severely restrict abortion, nationally, the number is greater now, total number of abortions per month, as compared to the pre-Dobbs period of time.
States where abortion is legal have tried to improve access, and use of medication abortion via telehealth has increased as well. In the first of 2 abortion cases it heard this term, the Supreme Court upheld access to medication abortion. But it hasn't yet ruled on whether hospitals in states with abortion bans can provide emergency abortions to protect the health of the person who's pregnant.
Many of my patients are scared to be pregnant in Idaho.
It stems from a challenge to Idaho's abortion law, one of the strictest in the country. A law that meant Jen and John Adkins said they had to travel more than 400 miles across state lines to get a procedure she needed and never wanted.
I wanted to be pregnant. I wanted to have this baby, but she wasn't going to live, and my health was at risk too.
Phil, the estimates are that more than 171,000 people have been in a similar situation to Jen and John, have had to travel across state lines and did so in 2023 to access abortion. We've also heard that doctors have left states with strict abortion bans because it's so hard to practice medicine there. So this is really changing, and it's continuing to change, as we saw with Florida just in May. And we are expecting that second Supreme Court decision potentially as soon as this week. Phil?
Yeah. Significant changes over 12 months. Meg Terrell, thanks so much. And joining me now to discuss is Democratic Congresswoman Susan DelBene of Washington State. She's the chair of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. Congresswoman, thanks so much for your time. I want to start with a policy issue before we kind of dig into the politics of abortion. You tweeted today, quote, "I'll keep fighting to restore and protect reproductive rights for all." I guess my question is the position right now for Democrats codification of Roe as it stood prior to Dobbs, or is it perhaps going further, a more expansive push for, say, the Women's Health Protection Act, which passed the House when Democrats last held the majority?
We absolutely want to pass the Women's Health Protection Act and put back in place the protections from Roe. This decision, the Dobbs decision 2 years ago, has been devastating, and we have women all across the country feeling the impact of the dangerous decision that was made. It's endangering the lives, the health, and the well-being of women across the country. And as you've shown, we see story after story after story of the impact. So we need to pass that legislation and put those protections back in place.
What do you say to, the former president has taken a position which he's repeated over and over. He's been very on message, which is not necessarily the norm for him when he says, look, yes, my Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade. However, we sent it back to the states. If you don't like the state you're in, you can move. Blue states can do what blue states want to do. Red states can do what red states want to do. Why is that not a valid position here?
Because that isn't the Republican position. The Republican position is to put in place a nationwide abortion ban, and they've been very clear about that. We've seen policy after policy after policy to take away reproductive rights, even in blue states, to prevent people from getting access, even in blue states. So this has been really devastating for women across the country, and we should be very clear, this is not just a state issue. And even this week, we're going to see in policy that comes on the floor with the defense funding bill, they're putting in policy riders to take away reproductive rights from service members. So over and over again, just see what they do. Their goal is a nationwide abortion ban.
Can I ask you from a political perspective, obviously this is a cornerstone of Democratic campaigns. It's a cornerstone, the issue and focusing on the issue is a cornerstone of the president's campaign as well. We went through this in 2022, where there were a lot of Democrats who weren't sure that that was exactly the issue they wanted everybody to focus on. It ended up being very effective for Democrats. But if you look at factors for people's votes now, we can pull up a poll that shows the economy is clearly at the top of 82%, inflation at the top of everybody's mind, democracy, crime, border, guns, all above abortion. Why do you think this will be an analog to 2022 and not a different moment for voters?
Because it's been on the ballot many times since 2022. And when abortion rights are on the ballot, people turn out to defend those rights and Democrats win. We saw that since November of 2022. We've seen elections in Kansas, in Virginia, in Ohio, in Wisconsin, even recently a state legislative race in Alabama, where a Democrat won, flipping that seat by 30 points after the Alabama Supreme Court took away protections for in vitro fertilization. So it absolutely has been on the ballot, and we have seen increased turnout because people want to protect reproductive freedom. And we know over 60% of voters across the country support abortion rights.
Right.
So this is an issue today just as much as it was in November of 2022.
We don't have much time left. Before I let you go, the NRCC outraised the DCCC, which you run for the first time in the wake of Donald Trump's conviction. And I'm not saying one time makes a trend or that that's going to be the way going forward. But my big question is, do you think that that burst of donations after the conviction is something that Republicans can continue to pull over the course of the coming months? Are you concerned about their fundraising?
You know, we've had strong support. We've outraised the NRCC by over $40 million this cycle. Folks are engaged. They care about making sure that we protect their rights, their freedoms, our democracy, and our future. And so we're going to have the resources to compete across the country. We only need 4 more seats to take back the majority. We're going to take back those gavels and stand up for the American people.
Congresswoman Susan DelBene, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks.